All right, everyone, we start off today talking about Bernie Sanders. As a clip of him, link in the description, talking about how they're changing the nature of the campaign. Well, I'm going to take it a little bit more easy. I'm not going to be going to as many campaign stops. Nobody's working as hard as me, though. The optics of this are terrible. The idea of slowing down right as you're going into the final debate, a few months later, states start voting. When you're a 78-year-old man who just had a coronary, that's not going to work. Bernie Sanders is now unequivocally done. He will not be the nominee, I can guarantee you that. Here's the problem. One heart attack does not death make, even when you're older, as he is. He's elderly. He's the only one who's officially elderly. Well, Biden, isn't he 76? Okay, he's a year over the threshold. He's closer to it. Sanders is almost 79. He's the only elderly candidate in the Dem field. If Buttigieg had a heart attack tomorrow, he could probably roll it over and say, well, this is why we need to eat our vegetables, kids. Get more Quaker oatmeal and do an ad spot. With Bernie Sanders, it's a little bit different. His fans expect him. And I've seen this. The Bernie bros are very staunch. And this is partially to their credit. I'm not, trying to insult you. With the Bernie Sanders fans, they expect him to be sort of a larger-than-life figure. It's not even just ideology, because they back Bernie exclusively. There are other Dems in the field saying the same shit, and they don't like them. They're not really big fans of Kamala. They're not necessarily aboard the Warren train. They like Bernie Sanders in part for the fact that he's been long-term a fighter, a maverick. This is the other thing. I can give him credit for two things: consistency and his high energy. Those are the two things I can give him credit for. I can't agree with him on virtually any issue, but at the very least, yeah, he's been consistently fighting for the same shit since Elizabeth Warren first began lying about her pregnancy being the reason she got canned from her teaching job. That's pretty great. A half a century of consistency is something most people will never have. That being said, his fans want him to be high energy and a fighter and get out there and clobber some people. So when Bernie Sanders, they expect him to show up at the debate and say, rip open his shirt, say, look at the scar that I got. Look at how cool it is from my heart surgery. This isn't half as bad as the stuff I got in the Civil Rights March era when I was with Martin Luther King. Bull Connor himself stabbed me in the face. Stuff like that. That's what they expect. They expect it to be a little bit meme-worthy and a lot of the chutzpah, as I'm sure Bernie Sanders would term it. But he doesn't have that. He's an old man who had a heart attack, and he's slowing down his campaign. You can't slow down a presidential campaign. Even if you are, and this is also true, even if you are going to more rallies than most of the other candidates, despite, again, your advanced age. He's going to more rallies than almost anyone, although, caveat to that, more events and more rallies are two different things. Rally is a type of event, it's not the only kind. It's a little bit muddy there, but to his credit, yes, he's been one of the higher energy candidates, but you can't just slow it down and say, well, I was working so hard, I gave myself a heart attack, so I'm going to slow down. There are other people going to more rallies. They're not having a problem doing that. Donald Trump, in some cases, has 2 or 3 rallies in a day and the office of presidency to deal with. While this impeachment inquiry bullshit is going on, that's still apparently not even semi-official, he seems to be doing fine. He hasn't had a heart attack, and the dude scarfs down Big Macs for lunch every day. Fucking 5 hours of sleep and a Big Mac and Diet Coke all day is what Donald Trump's lifestyle is like. He is a pudgy older dude, yet he's not having any heart attacks. This leads me to a question. Is Bernie Sanders, does he have, maybe heart failure or something? It is possible. It's not like his campaign would be forthcoming. I was surprised that we heard that he had an actual heart attack and that it wasn't just angina, because nobody would have cared. People would have gotten a little bit nervous, but angina, chest pain, had a blocked artery. This was the foreshock, and we got it early, so no worries. It's a little bit different from an actual heart attack. When you're old, you have a heart attack, it can cause scarring. It can cause longer-term problems. He's 78 years old. What the fuck more can I say? And now he's slowing down his campaign, but he expects to be taken seriously. Then we look at the polls. We see Sanders on the downswing. Warren's basically leeching off his softer support, I believe, at this point. She's going to be the front runner here. She's kind of sort of already is. Biden's still, basically even, but she's rising above him. It's a weird field right now. It's in the midst of a transition. Of course, we gotta wait, poll-wise, and I'll be analyzing this separately. We gotta wait to see what fallout happens from Warren's various lies rising up from the 70s to strangulate her. It's not just her ethnicity she was lying about. We'll have to talk about that in some degree of depth. As far as Sanders goes, though, old dude slowing his campaign down. What does that suggest to everyone? The softer supporters that really kind of want to be Bernie bros but are kind of hesitant because he dropped out and endorsed Hillary, I think warning bells are going off in their head right now, because one of the things as well, he talked all this talk about revolution, don't back down, no compromise, we socialism now and forever, but then he endorsed Hillary Clinton, this neoliberal who was offering basically repackaged Obama tripe that obviously hasn't worked for the poor and the working class. Trump's tax plans have, by the way, by and large. But, you know, Bernie Sanders, now he's angling himself into a position where he's in third. He's never been the front runner. He arguably already peaked early on, very early on, because he was the first big-name candidate in the race. He's been on the downswing mostly since then. Is he going to drop out, take a bunch of campaign money, buy another house, and endorse some neoliberal who inevitably becomes the nominee? What if it's Warren? Elizabeth Warren is not a progressive. She's a fucking phony. Virtually everything about her private life as well as her political views is phony. We're now learning that significant aspects of her private life that she talks about on the campaign trail are totally wrong. And not just the fact that she was a fake Native American who's actually one of the whitest Americans you could possibly envision. Virtually, it would be difficult to find an individual in the fucking world who's more of European extraction than Elizabeth Warren. You'd be hard-pressed to find many Europeans that are more European than Elizabeth Warren. And with her fake socialism, of course, she'd fit right in a party that involves Angela Merkel or Francois Hollande or Macron or any of their ilk. I like it when they call Macron a centrist, by the way. It's very, very funny. Socialism is now a form of centrism, they say. As long as the tax rate is below 60%. I feel sorry for Sanders, though. I'll say this. I feel more sorry for his fans. Because now they're going to have to back like Warren or Kamala. They're going to have to back someone who's going to say the same thing but not even mean it. As opposed to Bernie Sanders who says it and means it. Now that should be terrifying to people. It means, well, a self-righteous person is way worse than a genuinely corrupt person. He actually believes in his own bullshit, so he'll fight harder for it, even though it'll ruin the United States economy. I'm less afraid of someone like Warren, arguably, because even if they talk about cow farts, they're not actually going to try to ban the beef industry. They can talk a big game all they want about banning transatlantic flight, but they're never actually going to do it. They can talk a big game about gun control, but they're never going to pass it. That's the neoliberals. And by the way, the far left is wise to this now, thanks to the internet era. I don't think that they're going to back the fake, phony candidate that ends up becoming the inevitable nominee. At this point, still likely to be Warren or Biden, although I will say there is a narrow region, there's a narrow probability of a Buttigieg victory that could actually cause problems for Trump and actually save the DNC's face. It's just not likely, and I'll be, again, analyzing that separately. That's about all. Peace out.